Park Village Nature Center of the Chicago Park District. Welcome to our virtual Maple Syrup Festival 2021. For over 40 years, many of our visitors have enjoyed partaking in the annual Maple Syrup Festival. Due to COVID-19 restrictions, this year we are unable to host a festival. The safety of all our guests and staff is a priority. We typically have engaged the community via school group visits for a hands-on experience of a process of tapping maple trees.
How did they make maple syrup?
How does the sap that is tapped from the trees become maple syrup? Well, today we're going to find that out.
Does maple syrup come from the trees?
No, maple sap comes from the trees.
Remember, we collect sap by drilling a hole in a maple tree and tapping in a spile. Then we hang a bottle on the spile to catch the sap.
The sap collected during field trips, scout groups, and family programs would then be boiled at an annual festival for all the public to see and taste. This year, we invite you to join us virtually as we reminisce and reflect on maple tapping at North Park Village Nature Center. We have been busy refreshing our content to better honor trees and acknowledge the Indigenous science and technology of maple tapping. We thank volunteers, community members, and in particular, partners such as Adam Kessel, Garnet Wynn, Juan Pichel, and the American Indian Center. During our virtual festival, you can take a virtual walk of the sugar bush with Bob Porter, our land manager, as he explains the ecological importance of trees and specifically maple trees. Engage with Ryan Vance, our program specialist, as he acknowledges the historical and present-day implication of tapping as a cultural and ethical practice. Thank you for joining us at North Park Village Nature Center Virtual Maple Syrup Festival. We hope you enjoy and engage with the content.
As you can see, we use 3 pans. The first pan holds the raw sap. It sits on the hottest part of the fire. When the liquid becomes yellow and a lot of water has evaporated, it can be ladled into the middle pan where it will become darker as more water is boiled away. When the sap becomes brown, it can be transferred to the last pan. This is the last stage of cooking. This pan is smaller than the other 2. There is less water in the sap because it has evaporated. The sap is becoming brown because the sugar is caramelizing. When the sap reaches a temperature of 7 degrees above the temperature of boiling water, it is syrup. You can use maple syrup on pancakes, cereal, popcorn, or anything else you would like.
Hi, my name is Bob Porter. I'm the Natural Areas Manager for the North Park Village Nature Center. And I'm here to talk about the importance of trees, but in particular, sugar maple trees. Did you know that trees are one of the most important living organisms on the Earth's surface? In addition to producing oxygen, which all humans and animals need to survive, trees offer many other benefits. According to the National Wildlife Federation, trees provide living habitats for many plants and animals. Trees improve air quality and reduce flooding and erosion. Trees help temper the climate and conserve energy. Trees increase property values. Trees help reduce crime by making residential developments more comfortable and attractive. Trees reduce noise and visual pollution. And trees promote community by enhancing community pride and a sense of ownership. All in all, trees are vital to all life on Earth. Now, of course, sugar maple trees do all of the above, but what in particular makes sugar maples so important to us and the world we live in? Well, from a practical standpoint, sugar maples develop a very hard wood that is used for making furniture, flooring, cabinets, veneer, plywood, tool handles, cutting blocks, and musical instruments, just to name a few. Of course, the sap of sugar maples has long been used for making delicious maple syrup. And sugar maples are highly prized for their ability to cast thick shade on their surroundings and for their brilliant fall color. Sugar maples are also used by a variety of insect species. They provide food and habitat for a number of moths, flies, beetles, butterflies, and ants. These, in addition to the buds, seeds, and sap, attract several bird species, including the eastern goldfinch, rose-breasted grosbeak, yellow-bellied sapsucker, purple finch, white-throated sparrow, and others. According to the website IllinoisWildflowers.info, sugar maples are attractive to a variety of other wildlife as well. The eastern chipmunk, fox squirrel, gray squirrel, red squirrel, southern flying squirrel, meadow vole, and white-footed mice all eat the seeds of the samaras, which are those fun helicopter seeds that you see. White-tailed deer and elk browse on the leaves and twigs, while the beaver feeds on the wood. Now, because of heart rot, old maple trees provide dens for tree squirrels and such cavity nesting birds as the black-capped chickadee, northern flicker, pileated woodpecker, and screech owl. So what is it about sugar maples that makes them the best provider of delicious maple syrup? Well, it's all in the sap. Sap is like the blood of a tree, and all trees have sap. When it rains or when snow melts, the resulting water goes into the ground. It's absorbed by the tree's roots to become its sap. It's transported up inside the tree all of the way to its branches and leaves. And then as trees photosynthesize in the summer, sugar is produced inside the leaf sap. Sugar maples produce the highest concentration of sugar compared to other trees. When trees go dormant in the fall, the leaves drop, and so does the sap. It drains down to the roots where it remains all winter long. Then in the spring, when the temperatures rise above 32 degrees Fahrenheit during the day, and then below at night, the trees begin to pump that sap back up to the branches and leaves. And this is when it's time to tap them. Now, did you know that there are some really fun, what we call 40 facts about sugar maple trees? One of them is that a sugar maple tree, by the time it reaches the age of 40, it's ready to be tapped. Another one is that it takes about 40 gallons of sap to make just 1 gallon of maple syrup. Now, a couple of years ago in 2019, the Nature Center turned 40 years old. So to plan for future maple syrup festivals, we planted 40 sugar maple trees. Now, one commonly asked question is how much sap is produced by one tree? And that's a hard one to answer because there are a lot of things that depends on. It depends on the weather and how much snow we had and the age and the health of the tree. So today when we tap maple trees, we drill a short hole into the bark, only into about 2 inches, and then we put what's called a spile into the hole. And the spile collects the sap and it pours it into a bucket. And the question I always like to ask people is, if this spile is partially inside of the tree and it's collecting the sap and it's pouring it out, how come there's no hole in the back of the spile? Or even in the top of the spile? Why is that? I think I got you. Remember, I said that in the fall, the sap drains all the way down into the roots, and when the temperature gets above freezing, it starts coming back up, which is why the hole is in the bottom of the spile. And then the sap can go in the hole and come out the end of the spile.
An old Indian trail led the way to the nature preserve. This preserve used to be one of the oldest greenhouse and nurseries in Chicago, now the site of North Park Village Nature Center. Hello, my name is Ryan Vance, Program Specialist at North Park Village Nature Center. For years, we've been tapping trees with the public, and now we'd like to take a deeper dive into the indigenous science and culture behind tree tapping. Maple tree tapping is a science that European colonists and settlers learned from indigenous cultures and communities of North America, specifically those around the Great Lakes and northeastern United States. We want to explore the idea of maple tapping as an indigenous science and what it has meant for the communities to then engage with maple tapping as a seasonal recreational activity. At the Nature Center, it is one of our goals to collaborate with the Native community of Chicago, restore and build a relationship, and develop a formal land acknowledgement. The indigenous people of North America, specifically those living in and around the Chicago area, such as the Anishinaabe, have known for centuries how trees make sap, the weather conditions necessary to tap a tree, and how much to take. Foodways and language are one of the strongest connections to culture. During the natural season of sap flowing, the Anishinaabe culture had a name for the moon. It's the sugar moon. Maple sugar and syrup are one of the first products to be harvested, and they represent new life for many cultures and communities. signifying the importance of a particular time of year. These sugars were used for seasoning foods such as squash, pumpkin, venison, or fish, and used as a sweet treat and energy booster, especially during the winter months. Maple sap and sugar is also used as a traditional medicine for numerous different ailments. Here at the Nature Center, we didn't fully understand that traditional ecological knowledge of having a relationship with trees and the ecosystem, not for the purpose of recreation or consumption. In the tapping process, the tools used are forms of technology. The knowledge and technology connected with maple tapping was shared by Indigenous communities. Tools and technology for harvesting and processing sap has changed over the years, but the purpose remains unchanged. The notion of acknowledging Indigenous technology can be applied to snowshoeing as well. What do you think about the origins of the snowshoe? What is shared when you go snowshoeing? Just like maple tree tapping, snowshoes are an example of Indigenous science and technology. And now it's a popular winter form of recreation, a connection to health and nature. When we use tools in recreation, it's our responsibility to acknowledge the cultures that invented the processes. And be careful not to culturally appropriate that practice. The connection of Indigenous science and technology is not only in the use of tools, but also relevant through Indigenous futurism. Indigenous futurism is a movement consisting of art, literature, comics, games, and other forms of media which express Indigenous perspectives that reflect ways of knowing, traditional stories, historical or contemporary politics, and cultural realities. An example of a new video game called Growing Up Ojibwe, which is similar to Mario Brothers video games, takes a player on a journey about Great Lakes Ojibwe culture and history. You can play this game on your computer or download it to your phone. So the next time you notice a maple tree tapping program or event, consider if Indigenous culture is being acknowledged. Who is cited as the inventors, the knowledge keepers? What is mentioned of the taking and harvesting and consumption of sap and syrup? How much are we taking and how much is left for the trees? What do we give back to the trees after taking that sap? Indigenous cultures practice reciprocal cycles with nature, giving and taking what is needed. Consider your own balance with nature. Is it extractive? And how can you give back? Not take too much and honor the environment. At the Nature Center, we have considered the impact of tapping trees in several ways. Tapping trees with a hand drill that only goes about 2 inches deep does not harm the tree, since it's drilling into the natural vessels of the tree and not the heartwood. These small holes are similar to holes made by the sapsucker bird. Our drill bits make a tiny hole, and trees have a natural process for scarring and growing new wood over the hole. Every time we tap the same tree, we tap it 6 inches apart from a previous year's scar or hole. In addition, since we are removing sap as energy that might be needed from the tree, we designate color-coded ribbons to indicate younger trees from older trees, which older trees could handle 2 or 3 taps, and younger trees could only handle 1. We would like to continue to think about cultural and ethical implications of maple tapping and acknowledge Indigenous science. For example, in the past, we have planned a calendar to tap trees for school field trips. Now, we hope to better follow the weather and tap trees when it makes sense to tap them naturally. Through education, just like this video, we hope to acknowledge maple tapping as an Indigenous practice, better honor trees and our relationship with those trees beyond consumption, and educate folks on systems thinking to consider maple trees and humans as part of a larger ecosystem striving for resilience in a time of climate change. We want to create opportunities for a long-term relationship with the 100-year-old Norwegian maple trees, thanking them for all that they provided to the ecosystem. As stewards of this special preserve, protected into perpetuity, we also want to care for the newly planted sugar maple trees for future generations to connect with and protect along with the 46 acres of North Park Village Nature Center. Please consider the boundaries of appropriation, as it is important to consider that Native communities are still thriving today, and we should make an effort to build relationships and support them. The Nature Center is working on better fostering our relationships with Native communities. I'd like to acknowledge and thank Dr. Garnet Wind of the Chickasaw Nation for sharing with me the responsible use of language when acknowledging Indigenous science and technology.
I hope you enjoyed the North Park Village Nature Center's virtual Maple Syrup Festival. We invite you to visit the Nature Center and Preserve for a walk through the sugar bush. As you walk through the woodland, look for signs of past tappings, evident as a small scar or a belly button on a tree trunk about 3 to 5 feet above the ground. You may also notice animals looking for a sweet treat, a bird pecking on a trunk, a squirrel busy looking for sap exiting the tree. Take a deep breath while thanking the tree, and remember that we, trees, and all are part of this amazing and thriving urban ecosystem. At home, we encourage you to find ways to thank and connect with trees in your own neighborhood and local park. Go on a neighborhood tree walk. Consider a tree inventory of your neighborhood. What do you notice about the trees in your area? Do they have sap or small holes made by birds? How are they the same and different? Can you wrap your arms around the trunk all the way? Are there any resilient ash trees? Do you have a space you might want to plant an oak tree? We might not be able to provide oak trees for you, but North Park Village Nature Center is a resource for more information about trees, maple tapping, and more. If you enjoyed this video and would like to learn about more Park District activities, visit the Chicago Park District YouTube channel. From April 30th through May 3rd, join us for the City Nature Challenge. Visit citynaturechallenge.org.